Welcome back to the A15 Exchange. I am your host, Chris Crenshaw, and we are live from the 336 once again for episode 53. And ladies and gentlemen, it is the 1 year anniversary. Even though the 1 year anniversary is not till August 11th, this is the 1 year anniversary of the A15 Exchange. What a year it's been. Now I'm going to get sentimental in this first part, so ladies and gentlemen, as always, timestamps are in the description. So if you want to skip this long intro, feel free to. Feel free. I'm not going to complain. You want to skip past me being all mushy and in my feelings about making 1 year, skip ahead. They're doing the Olympics first, so you can do that. This is also a two-parter. We got a special episode. We got guests returning. My guy, Eddie Dixon, one of my longest serving friends ever, will be joining me here for the second half of this podcast. In a different set as well, so you have that to look forward. Special episode. We're talking about some NBA, baseball, probably even close the show with him, but yeah, got that to look forward to. But yes, 1 year anniversary is absolutely amazing. It's amazing. I've been through the absolute wire with this podcast, with this show. I have had to fight for this. I've fallen out with people over this. I've had fights verbally with, not physically. I haven't had to actually, put the hands on anybody, but I've been in verbal fights. I've been in some of the darkest times in my life, over being able to sit in this chair and talk to you guys over a camera in my career choice. I've been through the wire for this, but this is what I love to do. This is what I love to do. As children, they tell us to chase our dreams and all this stuff about if you find something you're passionate about, go do it. Go do it. Go chase after that. And then when we become, as you get closer for my non-adult audience, and even for my adult audience that can relate, as you get closer to that, people kind of want you to fit into a certain place and are kind of like pretty much give up on your dreams. It's, it's not going to happen, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Don't do this, do this, right? They try to tell you what you should do with your life, with your career, right? I feel like we have a lot of that. Unfortunately, the way I'm wired, I wasn't really feeling that. And I guess I'm going into my life story here. Even though I keep much of my life off of the internet, people have always, sports have always been my thing. It's my thing. Everybody has that thing they're passionate about. It's their thing. They're the one thing that's special, right, to you, and that you're either more knowledgeable about or you grasp to or gravitate to more than anything else. For me, it's sports. It's always been my thing. My parents have stories of when I was a toddler. Months, year, 2 years, 3 years old, just watching the TV, watching NASCAR races or NFL or baseball or basketball. And just sitting there and watching. I didn't even really know what was going on, right? But I was just sitting there and watching. And sports has always been my thing. My friends used to joke or half joke that I was going to be one of the sportscasters or talk show hosts on ESPN and or NBC or CBS, right? A sportscaster. It seemed to be my destiny of what I wanted to do, right? And for a long time, that is what I wanted to do. That is what I wanted to do with my life. That was my dream. And as I got older, as I evolved, as I got more knowledgeable, as I learned, as you do, as you get older, as you should when you get older, I became more ambitious. I became more and more ambitious, especially when I hit college. I became very, very ambitious. And I'm probably now the most ambitious person I know. That's not me being confident or, over cocky or anything like that. But just straight up, I'm probably not a hit. I know very ambitious people, but I'm probably the most ambitious person I know. And yeah, like even the goals that people think are my goals are those are like sub goals of my ultimate goals. But I needed something to be the core. When I decided to do content creation about 1.5 years ago, I needed something to be the core of what I was going to do. And a lot of people, a lot of friends were like, Chris, you should make your own show. So that's what I did. I started formulating and I decided to make my own podcast or web show or series, right? And it was this. It's this. This is my baby. Originally, and I probably still have that Google Doc, and I might post that one day. Might do that for the 1 year anniversary of all the brainstormed ideas I had for this podcast, right? And I had, it was originally called the 815 Podcast, and all this stuff, and then COVID hit, so this started about February, March, and then COVID hit, and I got a lot more time to work on it, which was one of the good things about COVID, even though there's not been really much to say that was good about COVID, but I guess I got to work and do professional development a little bit more as a result, so I guess there's something positive. But, did that, COVID hits, going through everything, the name changes eventually due talking with my family. It becomes the 815 Exchange. I forget who exactly suggested it. Whichever one of my family members, maybe my grandfather, maybe my mother, maybe my father, was like the exchange, because it's the exchange of communication, which I explained, I think, in the first episode. But this is exchange information from me to you and from you to me, or like today in the back half when my boy Eddie gets here in about 30 minutes, an exchange of information between us, right? It's supposed to be a dialogue. I felt like the world wasn't communicating enough, and this was a great way to show that we can still communicate and still talk and do all that type of stuff. So that's where that came from. And then later on in July, the logo was created, which has a couple different versions I might upload eventually. And then last week in July, first week in August, that's when the intros were made. We got the teaser, which you see in all of my stuff for C8, which is my brand. And then, of course, you got the intro, which I don't think I'm ever changing. You guys love it. I love it. It's just so perfect. The A15 Exchange intro, we got that. I uploaded those kind of as little trailers. And, yeah, we were all from there. And it's been a hell of a year. It's been a hell of a year. We've talked about everything. You've seen me rant about the Cowboys being trash. You've seen me rant about super teams. You've seen super chill podcasts. You've seen NBA draft previews with the boys that are completely chaotic. You've seen everything, right? We talked about all types of music, great movies, bad music, albums of the year. You've seen me fawn over people. You've seen me hate people. You've seen everything. It's been a hell of a 53. It's been a hell of a 53 episodes. For the past 53 weeks, it sounds insane to say, I have sat in a chair or a couch in Charlotte, in Greensboro. I've even edited in different cities in America and uploaded the video. So like Gatlinburg, I uploaded a video there. It's been wild. It's been wild. But I'm super appreciative of all the love it's had. Because I really do. I have a lot of belief in this becoming, even though right now it's not the biggest thing. It's not the biggest thing on any of my content, right? It's not even the biggest thing that on this channel. But I believe in this podcast, I believe in this show, that's going to be one of the biggest in the world one day. And it's the core. It's why I made it the core of my content, because it's something that can just overlap with everything. And yeah, you know. So for anybody out there that's lost or you don't know what you want to do, find what you're passionate about. Even though I'm not sitting here, I'm not making any money off of this right now, but I'm chasing that dream. I'm doing what I'm passionate about. This is what I love to do. This is what I enjoy doing. If you find something that you are passionate about, find something. It doesn't even have to be content creation. Find, something in that topic which fits you and chase that. Chase that. Chase that dream. Chase that passion. Chase whatever that, thing is. Even if people criticize you and say, do it like this. Now, listen to people like when they give you suggestions, but you determine. Ultimately, it's up to you whether you want to take that, whether you think it's fair criticism or a fair suggestion. Because this podcast, this show has evolved. I mean, thinking about the first episode to this episode, it's wildly different, right? But chase it. Whatever it is, chase it. You have to sometimes bet on yourself in this life. I've made my whole life, one of my life stories is betting on myself. I've gone through, I'm not going to, get here and get, specific and super personal and call out people. But, I've had a lot of stuff where people doubted me or looked down upon me and, didn't really believe that I would do something. And that helps drive me. I use that as motivation. to, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway. Just because I know I can do it. And that's how I feel about this. There's some people that have vocally said that they don't think this is going to be anything. But I believe in myself. I believe in the sport of you guys. That this is going to be something. And I think a year from now, we're going to look back on this episode and it's going to be, you know, what a time. You know, what a time. Remember back when I said this on episode 53, the 1 year anniversary episode. I think this is an episode we're going to come back to a lot. But, like I said, been through the wire with this. It's been an unbelievable year. I don't want to hold you guys up too much, as I do need to record an episode. We do have a lot to talk about. Probably going to be a very long episode. So, don't want to, you know, do too much there. I got to, you know, of course, when Eddie gets here. But, super appreciative. What a year. Appreciate all of the support. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. If you're enjoying the content, got to sneak my YouTuber plug in there. But, yeah, 53 of 53. We're only going up from here. The way that this is tracking, the way this channel is tracking, is unbelievable. I'm super appreciative. So, yeah. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, enough talk about me and, you know, my being in my feelings and the story of this podcast that I'll probably tell a million times as this podcast and as I get, you know, bigger and grow and continue to climb the ranks. Let's talk about the Olympics, right? Let's talk about the actual content of the 53rd episode. The Olympics ended this past week. My America, we had some down moments. You know, the 4x100 team, I do not want to talk about. Didn't even make the final, finished 6th in the semifinal. Mike Norman wasn't great. Randolph messed up. We had our down moments. Dake messed up. There was a lot of screw-ups, right? A lot of times we got upset in this Olympics. We had a lot of down moments. It didn't look good for the men's basketball team at first. But you know what? Ultimately, we dominated. On a numbers basis, it looks like we dominated. Because we won the medal count by quite a bit. I think we finished with 113. Next closest, I think, was 86. We sneaked out, shout out to the volleyball program. We sneak out the gold medal count win, too. So I guess technically you can say the USA won the Olympics. But talking about the specific sports, 4x400 redemption, man, we had the God Squad with the women. The God Squad. The God Squad. A Team Mo. Yeah, a Team Mo. Got it right. Make sure I get that right. I haven't messed it up yet. But a Team Mo, Delilah Muhammad, the GOAT Allison Felix, who passed Carl Lewis, is what I want to say. Passed Carl Lewis for most medals, most decorated track and field American athlete in the Olympics history. And, of course, the baby GOAT, Sydney McLaughlin. Sydney McLaughlin, the 400-meter hurdles champ, 400-meter hurdles world record holder, her and Delilah. Of course, they're magic together. Team Mo, she won the 800 meters. And, of course, Allison Felix is Allison Felix. It's the squad we all wanted, and it's the squad we got. So grateful they gave us that. Nearly broke the world record. That was magic. The men got redemption in the 4x4. Michael Cherry, Mike Norman, Ryan Benjamin, Bryce Dedman, all did what they do. We get the win there. A nice sweep. A nice sweep. You know, you love to see it. We love to see it. Great to see. We've been through something. We've been through a lot in this Olympics. It was hard to even get this Olympics going, but we get it done there. Track and field. Basketball. A lot of people were down. A lot of people didn't think, you know, the men were going to do anything. I was one of those people that had doubts. Compared them to the 2014. But we get it done. We get it done. Gold medal game against France. We get it done. KD, greatest Olympic basketball player. Not greatest Olympian. Greatest Olympic basketball player we've ever had. Shout out to KD, one of the best players in the world, obviously. Probably one of the greatest players of all time. Also, Jason Tatum. I think he's taking the jump this year. He had a great Olympics as well. Shout out to JT, Duke guy. That's my guy. So shout out to him, the mid-range god. Women's basketball, I don't really need to say much. Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi, 5 gold medals. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Wrestling, my boy Gable Steveson. Gable Steveson, I tried to tell y'all about Gable. He's not to be messed with. He's different. My boy Gable he's different. He's different. He's different. Different type of athlete. So shout out to Gable. He gets it done. Shout out to the Magic Man, David Taylor. He also gets it done. Shout out to Penn State. Kyle Snyder went over to Penn State. Broke up with Ohio State. Nearly beat Saudi-Lev. Nice to see him get back in form. That was a really good match. Saudi-Lev just won on strategy, man. He just had a better strategy. He didn't shoot it all in that and, still got the win. He's the best wrestler in the world for a reason. But Snyder really regaining that form. That's nice to see. But yeah, overall, Olympics was up and down for us as a country, but overall, we get it done. So, proud to be American. Proud to be American. Salute to all the athletes. It was a different type. You had to deal with COVID. You had to deal with not much practice time, but you still went out here, broke some world records, made some history. Can't wait for 2024. But yeah, good stuff. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now to head over to the MMA scene, or really just the UFC this week. We had UFC 265, which is really just Dana's event of screwing over Francis Ngannou. Pay the man. Pay the man. Pay the man to fight Cyril Gane. Or Cyril Gane. Yeah, Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane. Yeah, Cyril Gane. Pay the man. Pay Francis Ngannou. Please, Dana. We need this fight. If you just pay him, Cyril, and John Jones so we can get these fights. Cyril Gane schooled Derek Lewis. Easy TKO. I mean, he dominated the whole fight. Leg kicks were vicious. He's so different from every other heavyweight Gane is. He's just different. He's different. He's built different, literally, unironically. Built different. He's built different. I don't know if I've ever seen a technical striker like this at the heavyweight division. But Gane, man, he's a beast. He's a beast. He's a beast. He just schooled the Black Beast. Derek Lewis had nothing for him. He wanted to claim eye pokes, but those were just jabs, bro. Listen, Lewis was a fish out of water. He's a great knee fighter, and he's one of the top heavyweights. But ultimately, he was never going to beat Cyril. He was never going to beat Cyril. Please give us Ngannou versus Cyril. Pay the man, Dana. You didn't have to make this for the interim belt, but I decree nonetheless. Jose Aldo, UD's Munoz, Pedro Munoz. Aldo looked like old Aldo. He looked good. This was the best he's looked at 145. This was the best he's looked at 145. Or is it 135? I think it's 145, right? This is the best he's looked. Yes, 145. This is the best that Jose Aldo has looked. He looked, I mean, he looked great. He looked great. He looked competitive. He really did. He looked very competitive. Actually, it's 135, right? It's 135. Yeah, 135 he's fighting Jan. Yeah, 135. This is the best he's looked. So, yeah, shout out to Jose Aldo, one of the greatest mixed martial artists of all time. Happy to see him win. He's a legend. And, yeah, he just beat down Munoz. One of his best performances I've seen from Aldo in a very long time. Vicente Luque is a contender in the welterweight division. I like Michael Chiesa. I still like Michael Chiesa. But Luque, he's the real deal. He's the real deal. Just the way he's able to work on the ground. I think he's got a very intriguing matchup with Usman coming up eventually. He just continues to move up. And he proved in this fight he's a real contender. You know, he faced adversity and still found a way to win. So, credit to Luque. It's why a lot of people are high on him. And, you know, if you watch this fight, you will understand why. Chiesa, I still think is a very good fighter. Again, he was winning this fights at some points. So, you know, here you go. Even though it was a round one sub, he had him until he did. So, yeah, really good fight between those two. Chiesa, I think he's going to be fine. He's a really cool dude. And he's a great fighter. He's a great fighter. Good win for Luque. Other stuff that happened on this card. We had Faizev, UD, Bob Green. That was a really good fight, Bobby Green. And Faizev. Faizev always brings the action. You can always bet on a banger of a fight when you see them. So, shout out to Faizev. He gets the UD there. Yadong and Kenny. Yadong didn't. I like Son Yadong. He did not win that fight against Casey Kenny. He did not win that fight. I don't know why they gave him the decision, but that was a little bit egregious in my opinion. But yeah, Kenny beats Yadong. Don't have another UFC fight for a while, but overall, it was a pretty fun card. I thought it was gonna be weaker, but it was actually a pretty good card. It was a pretty good card. I think it was an underrated card, even though it was probably low profile. It's probably not gonna do big on like pay-per-view numbers, of course, because the headliners weren't like two household names. But overall, solid card. Had a lot of crazy knockouts as well in the prelims. So, a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff. But Dana, please pay Francis Ngannou. Pay the man. Pay the man. Now we're gonna move over to the entertainment biz. I finished watching OBX 2, and yeah, it was the goods. It was the goods. I actually liked it more than the first season. It was good. It was good. Interesting twist at the end. Spoiler alerts. With John B's father. That was an interesting twist. But yeah, it was a good episode. I like how they continue to be able to focus on the different characters. Key, Pope, JJ. It's not just the John B and Sarah show. And I can appreciate that. They all, balance well. And of course, that cast loves each other. They're one of the best casts. I mean, honestly, I put them up there with some of the best cast in terms of chemistry in the business, as we see from their Instagram posts. They really, really mess with each other. Carlisa Grant also did a fantastic job. She did a fantastic job as Cleo. She was great. Yeah, just a great season. It's not just like a gimmick of the hype of OBX. It's actually a good TV show. So yeah, shout out to OBX. I watched Suicide Squad. Oh my goodness, so much better. Shout out to James Gunn, because it's so much better than the first installment. So much better. Idris Elba killed it. Margot Robbie is literally Harley Quinn. I can't envision Harley Quinn as anybody else in a live action film. The twist and depth were absolutely crazy. Peacemaker died. Of course, they brought them in at the end credit scene and all that type of stuff. But, I mean, Suicide Squad. It was so good. So good. Funny. The action was great. Starro was actually an interesting villain, which is, I don't know how you do that out of a giant starfish, but you know what? They made it happen. The Thinker was interesting. Again, yeah, they killed it. They killed it. I can't believe they killed off Captain Boomerang like that. Weasel came back. What else? Ratcatcher 2. Ratcatcher 2 was so good. Heart of the film. Heart of the film. I forget the actress's name, but she needs to be in a lot more stuff. She was great. But yeah, Suicide Squad was very, very good. You know what else was very, very good as I go over to music now? Isaiah Rashad's album. A lot of hype around Zay, and he delivered. The House is Burning. I know it came out last week, but I told you last week I was going to get around to it, and I did. From the Garden, I think, with Lil Uzi Vert was probably, that's the song I remember the most. I've only gone through one listen, so no official rating, but it's definitely, might end up as one of my favorite albums of the year, might end up in my album of the year conversation. It was good. It was good. I understand the hype around Zay, for sure, because it was just a vibe. The album was a vibe. I've said this before. It was one of those albums that's just a vibe. You can just sit back and just let it play. No real misses. You can just sit back and let it play and vibe out. So yeah, shout out to Zay for The House is Burning. Great album. The Weeknd returned with Take My Breath, which was interesting because it heavy 80 cents. And again, it's The Weeknd. It was great. It was a very good song, right? I won't say it was great. It was a very good song. But, I mean, a bell's not going to miss. It's interesting he went with the 80s feel, considering how prominent that was last year. And that I'm surprised he's doing it, here. Compared to, it was a hot thing last year. Is it still hot? I mean, with the bell, it seems like everything's hot. But Take My Breath, very good track from The Weeknd. I don't really need to say too much. It's The Weeknd. You know this. He can do no wrong. He really can do no wrong musically right now. Kanye. I'm not going to watch these live streams. I'll watch the clips of the spectacle, and it's a spectacle. Like I said 2 weeks ago, nobody puts on a show like Kanye West, right? Nobody can make something a spectacle like Ye. But I'm not going to sit here and waste my time and watch it for an album that's not coming out. Now, it's interesting to see him go through the creative process and continue to edit these tracks, but bro, I'm not taking the bait. I'm really not taking the bait. Even though, from what I've heard and what people are saying, this version of Donda is pretty good. Pretty good. Almost very good. And better than the last installments. But I'm not getting lost in the sauce. I'm not gonna fall out arms and be like, yo, yay, Donda. I can't wait for it to come out. When it comes out, it comes out. I'll listen to it. We'll talk about it here on the A15 Exchange. But I ain't going to do the most. I am not doing the most. I think it's supposed to come out the 16th now. And we'll see. We'll see. Who knows when Ye's going to release it. He rented out Mercedes-Benz. He really did rent out Mercedes-Benz locker room and is doing a live stream there. You see a bunch of people come in. From a marketing standpoint, from a marketer standpoint, this is great. This is a great way of marketing your album, right? It's genius. From a musical fan and somebody who wants to listen to the album, I really don't care about. I don't really care, honestly. It's cool to see, but I don't care. I don't care. Donda didn't come out this week, so we're not gonna talk about the actual contents of the album. We'll talk about it when it happens, whenever it happens. But yeah, another week of Kanye doing what Kanye does. But an interesting week in entertainment. We'll see what next week brings. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, for the second half of this podcast, I had a very, very, very special guest, one of my bestest, one of the friends I've had the longest in this life, ladies and gentlemen, Eddie Dixon. Welcome to the A15 Exchange.
Thanks, Chris, for having me on the show. Super excited. I'm ready to get right into it.
And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to hop right into the NBA. We had a lot happen this past week. I could have talked about it last week with the draft and all the trades we had and free agency started, but we're going to talk about it a little bit here. We're going to start off with the transactions, and then we'll talk a little bit about the Summer League. But yeah, starting off, we have Russell Westbrook, the big one. Russell Westbrook forming a new big three with the Lakers and all of the signs they did. Any thoughts on that, Eddie?
This is what I have to say about the Lakers. First of all, they're old. They're starting to get washed up.
Okay.
And then this brings me to my next point, the big point here. I am not going to root for a team with more than 2 superstars on it. That's it. I'm done with super teams. At first, I didn't really like Giannis, but after what he did this year, that's where I'm at.
You felt like he had to put some respect on his name because of what he did.
He put some respect on his name and some other players that stick with their franchise through thick and thin, like Dame. I'm going to have to pull for those guys. Like LeBron, like the big names, like their stuff, but super teams too much for me now.
Too much. I kind of feel that same sentiment. I think a lot of people with Giannis winning this chip, despite whatever circumstances you want to put around it, I think a lot of the criticisms people had about that shot and all that type of stuff, I think that did him a huge service in terms of his legacy and how he's viewed by the public. And yeah, and like I said this before on the podcast, I enjoyed when we were kind of running this like tandems in the league. Like we had these 2 stars on each team.
Exactly.
And it felt like these past 2 playoffs, even though this playoffs was kind of, whatever you want to say about COVID, a little janky because we had all the injuries and all that type of stuff. These past 2 playoffs, we haven't really had that one team that was like, when we had the Warriors with KD, it was like, okay, you knew they were going to be in the finals and probably winning it every year. And they probably would have, three-peated if KD hadn't blown out his calf Achilles. And Kawhi and the Raptors hadn't turned up. So it felt good these past 2 years, kind of not knowing who's going to win the championship. And with these super teams, it's just like, it kind of takes a little bit out of it. I will say, though, like some of the criticisms you have for the Lakers super team, I don't even know if I really call them a super team yet. They're a big 3, sure, because Russ, Bron, and AD is obvious. That's 3 superstars, right? But I feel like I need to see them in action and see how the rest of that team plays before I anoint them on the same level as the Brooklyn Nets, so to say. Because we know the Nets, we know they can perform. If KD's foot was an inch shorter, they probably would have won a championship. But, Lakers, it looks good on paper. They filled out the rest of that roster. They got Malik Monk. Got rid of Dennis Schroeder, which was a good thing because Schroeder was whatever you want to call Schroeder in the playoffs. Dwight Howard's back. It's an interesting scenario for the Lakers.
Yeah, for me, there's no question that they're going to do good. But I want to see a team that, grassroots, start from the bottom, work their way
drafted guys coming up, developed.
Definitely.
I can feel that. Also in free agency, also in the trades, we had the Heat. Big news because it was the Heat in Toronto. Kyle Lowry is a legend. I just talked about Toronto. Kyle Lowry is a legend in the 6 and probably going to get his jersey retired, honestly. Probably nobody ever will wear that 7 again. But he is in a sign and trade with the Heat. They sent Goran Dragic and Precious Achimwu. I think it is, yeah. sent him back to Toronto. So, interesting scenario there. How you feeling about that?
I like the Heat. You know, I want to see Jimmy Butler do good, and I feel like Kyle Lowry will be a good addition to him. And if they don't get a championship, at least they got some cake that Kyle Lowry's bringing to the table.
Facts. I can feel that. Again, honestly, I was shocked to see the Raptors make the move because I thought Lowry was going to retire there. Makes sense kind of for the Heat because after the way this playoffs went, even though in the bubble they were phenomenal. Of course, Jimmy went on that legendary rampage to the finals before they got beat by the Lakers. But kind of disappointed this year. So makes sense for them in the sense that they needed to make some changes, make some switch ups. And to go after a guy like Lowry, Dragic, not that Lowry's some like spring chicken, but Goran Dragic getting up there in age, so makes sense for them to make that move. But should be interesting. Toronto is in full rebuild, and of course that's headed off by drafting Scotty Barnes, 4th overall. They got him in the summer league. He had a good game yesterday, 18, 10, and 5. Out of Florida State. A lot of questions about his offensive game, but we all knew he was capable defensively. Showed some flashes yesterday. Who else? We had Jalen Green play yesterday.
Jalen Green.
LiAngelo Ball.
That boy Jello. You gotta root for the balls. You want to see them do well.
You gotta respect LeVar at this point. Honestly, you gotta respect LeVar. That's why he wore that shirt that said, "What was it? I was right yesterday." I think. I forget what it said on Twitter. But I'll probably pop a photo of that up somewhere over here or right there. But yeah, can't help, honestly at this point, 22 years old, he's still young, hadn't played, competitive basketball, but still bowed out. I know it's the summer league, we can't take it too seriously, but still went out, I think, had 16, hit 5 threes or something like that. So.
And another thing I respect about Jello is he had a very low point in his career with everything at UCLA. And it just goes to show, you put your nose down, you work at it, you can get what you want to get done.
Facts. I can agree to that. So yeah, shout out to Jello. Like I aforementioned, Jalen Green, 23. He's just an electrifying scorer. He was I had 1A, 1B with him and Cade. Cade didn't have the best debut for the Pistons. Went 5 for 17. Only had 12 points. They took the L also. But once again, it's the summer league. He showed flashes. Evan Mobley as well. Didn't play the best game. Alfred Segan. The Rockets, like I said they won the draft. And the rookies for them, him, Jacob, and of course JG, they really showed out. Of course, Usman Garuba was with Spain in the Olympics, so he didn't play yesterday. But nonetheless, Rockets rookies look very good. Cade looked pretty good. Jello, of course, he's the biggest story. He's going to be the biggest story. Him and the Hornets. That Hornets team looked fun. James Bouknight also had a very good game.
Another thing I want to say, something about Summer League that brings us to mind, is this is a young man's league now. All these older players, they do bring a lot to the table in terms of their leadership and experience. But this is a young man's league about athleticism and creativity, and I'm excited to see what they can do.
It's the next generation. We're kind of, and we saw that, I said it in the Olympics, it kind of feels like our generation is now, as we've kind of come of age, it feels like we're kind of starting to take over here. The generation before us, our generation, and a little bit of the generation below us, even though they're still like 18, 19, they're kind of starting to take over here, and it's a new era. A lot of the stars we grew up watching are starting to be, ushered out, and that's across the board in all sports. Brady, even though he's everlasting in the NFL, is 40-something, and Rodgers is close to 40. In the NBA, you got Melo, LeBron, even KD is 30-something, right? At this point, it's just a new era. And in the next topic we'll talk about, there's a lot of young superstars, and I'm excited to talk about that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's it from the Summer League. That's it from the NBA and the association. NBA season starting to heat back up. It's been an interesting offseason, but that was the league. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now we are transitioning over to the baseball world, and me and Eddie have been talking about this for weeks. Pretty much everybody in baseball has been talking about this for weeks, and of course that is the AL MVP race. Shohei Ohtani, I talked about this I think 2-3 weeks ago. I called him a once-in-a-lifetime talent. But the problem is the MVP is just not black and white. Normally, you got a guy like Ohtani. Well, really, I should say this the other way around. You got a guy like Vlad who's competing for the Triple Crown, right? Leading near the tops in batting average, near the tops in home runs, near the tops in RBIs, everything you can think of offensively. But you got a guy like Shohei Ohtani who we've never really seen before. An ERA under 3. We got, I think, 6 wins as well. And then, of course, he leads the league with what? 37 home runs, I believe?
Yep, 37
home runs. So, got that situation. So, how are you feeling about, you've watched a lot of Blue Jays baseball, so how you feeling about the AL MVP race?
So, I'm feeling that any other year, if someone, a freak of nature, someone other than Shohei Ohtani, Vlad would be the hands-down MVP. But Shohei is once in a lifetime, lights-out pitcher, jacks balls out of the stadiums, crazy exit velo. One point about Vlad, though, even though he's crazy offensively, his defense has also stepped up.
Awesome. Yeah.
His whole career, he's played third base, transitioned to first base this year. His athleticism has shined.
Lost the weight over the offseason, which, if you guys didn't
did.
know, which helped a lot with his more movement, worked with a trainer, did a lot of that stuff, and we've seen that effect. Like, not even like you were saying, defensively, we've seen that. Just kind of overall, him as an athlete, he's gotten better, and I think that's also helped him transition into reaching his offensive potential.
Definitely. And also his leadership off the field. You just see them in the dugout having a great time, but when it's time to get to business, they get to business. So I really respect that about Vlad. But once again, Shohei, just speechless about Shohei. He's crazy.
He's nothing. It's like, I compared him to, he's like a player you'd create, right? You
Exactly.
give him all 99 for everything. Because he's out here stealing bases, I think. Let me see if I can pull it up. He's got what?
He is stealing bases.
He's got 15 steals this year. This is a starting pitcher. He started the All-Star game. He has 15 steals, 37 home runs, 82 RBIs, 74 runs. Of course, he leads the league in home runs and slugging percentage. For Vlad, he leads the league in OBP, leads the league in OPS. Hit a mini slump. In a slump for Vlad this year is he's still hitting 318, which is ridiculous. He leads the league in RBIs and runs, but yeah, like I said, it's been shaping up to be a very, very, an MVP race that we're going to remember. God willing, they both stay healthy, of course. But it's been a great one. Now, talking about the Blue Jays, of course, we do have what has been an absolute bloodbath in the AL East. And as a Yankees fan, it's been pain. You've watched a lot of Blue Jays, like I said, and you can kind of relate to it and talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. So, in any other division, if you're above 500, you're 1 or 2 in the division. But the Blue Jays are over 500, and they're 4th. And that's just so frustrating. Tampa Bay, they're leading the AL East, and they're absolutely crazy. But it's frustrating as a fan of teams in the AL East. I respect it and I appreciate it with the game.
For the competition purposes.
But I want to see the Blue Jays make a breakout, and hopefully Springer, now that he's been back for a while and is really establishing himself on the team, hopefully they can make a run late season and get into the playoffs and take on Tampa Bay.
Normally I was associated with the bloodbath, even though I think about a month ago when Wander Franco, former #1 prospect in the MLB, got caught up for the Rays, who happened to be in first place as I've pulled up the standings. We got the Rays at 68-44. They lead. We got 4 games behind them. We got the Red Sox at 65-49. Then you got the Yankees at 61-50. And you got the 4th place, like you said, the 4th place Toronto Blue Jays at 60-50. And then you got the Orioles, but we won't talk about the Orioles. They've got 72 losses. We're not going to talk about them. They do have now the #1 prospect in the MLB, Adley Rutschman, former #1 overall pick, which provides some hope. But it's been, like you said, an absolute, from a competition standpoint, it's been great. But as somebody invested in this division, it has been absolutely terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. I did not expect the Red Sox to turn around after losing their core. Pedroia, Ortiz, so on and so forth, in a quick succession those past, 2 to 3 years. Did not expect them to rebuild around guys like Alex Verdugo. Thank you to the Dodgers. Not really. Over the course of, these past 2 seasons. But, they're back in it. And the wild card is looking like it's going to be very, very tough to attain when you got a team like Toronto at 60 and 50, and they're only 4th place in this division. Only 7 games back. Who knows? They go on a run. Vlad gets hot. Bobashay gets hot. Springer, like you said, he's been playing better. He gets hot. They make a run here. But AL East just been a bloodbath. It's been a bloodbath. And some down news for the MLB. We got a nice chunky, nice large MLB section for you. Quickly transitioning. Ramon Lorena for the Athletics. Athletics have been very down bad this year. It's only going to get worse. They're starting out for the Loreno. Called for PEDs. He's out for 90 days. See you in 3 months. Which is probably the rest of the season, though, because it's, August now? So
yeah.
Might, go into next season. So good luck with that. Now talking about the Phillies. And this is going to transition into a segment that my dear Edward83, he came up with called Sleepers that I'm about to introduce to you in a little bit. But first we talk about the Phillies, and then I'll talk about a certain player who applies to the Sleeper segment. Zach Wheeler, complete game shutout, 11 Ks for them. I think against the Athletics, funny enough. I didn't actually make that up, but I think that was actually against the Athletics. But yeah, Phillies. Got hot at the right time. Wheeler, the pitching, it's all functioning. They're now tops in the NL East, tops in the National League. Good stuff from them. And of course, it's headlined by one guy. And one guy I'm now going to transition over to the Sleeper segment, which, Eddie, I'll let you kind of introduce, and you kind of tell me what it's about.
Of course. So Sleepers is our segment about a player in the sports world, doesn't matter which sport, out of the big sports, who has been outstanding and who not many people recognize. So maybe like an underrated player or who has been underrated these past few years, and we want to bring them to light and kind of talk about their stats, talk about what they've been doing and their potential going forward.
Correct. So basically, guys that have kind of gone under the radar. And this first guy, really, about 2 years ago, you would have absolutely not said would have been in this segment. But somehow, some way, this man has become underrated, despite being once labeled as a generational prospect. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated at 16. He was once exalted amongst Mike Trout as the future of this league. Had an MVP run with the Washington Nationals. Then he had some not so great years, and the overrated chants followed. But now he's somehow become underrated. Of course, I'm talking about one Bryce Harper. And I know you're probably like, Chris, this man is making $300 million a year. How in the world is he a sleeper? How is he underrated? Well, think about the fact that we really haven't heard about Bryce Harper at all this year before this week. Conveniently just happened. I know I didn't make this up, but Sports World just decided to make the Phillies go off this past week and rise as conveniently as I chose him. But Bryce Harper is hitting .302 with 19 home runs. We won't talk about the RBIs because he leads the league in solo home runs. That's an issue with the Phillies offense. But Harper is making a late run. Now the AL MVP race, like we talked about earlier, we got Shohei, we got Vlad. It's tied at the top. NL MVP race is a lot more wide open. Jacob deGrom, he's the best pitcher on God's green earth. Problem is he can't stay healthy. Fernando Tatis Jr. has proven he's one of the best shortstops on God's green earth. But once again, he also cannot stay healthy. So Bryce Harper, with the momentum he's got for the Phillies, he's putting on. A lot of people, I think, have gotten bogged down by the fact that, in even looking at his stats, looking at his numbers, sure, he hasn't been MVP level Bryce with the Nationals, where he hit .330, hit 40 bombs that one season, I think back in, 2015 at 22. He wasn't on that level, but, the man was still hitting .260. Hitting 30 bombs, right? It wasn't superstar generational level like he was touted, but they weren't bad years for just, if you put him on the same level as the average baseball player. He was still very good. But this year, he's just gone to another level. He's reverted back to MVP Bryce, and it's been very exciting for Phillies fans. He's been talking about the stadium and the energy, having those fans back. I think that's contributed a little bit to that because we all know Bryce feeds off of the energy of the fans. He enjoys playing that villain role sometimes, and I think he also enjoys playing the hero role in Philadelphia. Philadelphia known for their rabid fans from the Sixers or the Eagles and all that type of stuff. So, good stuff from him. Bryce Harper, he's my sleeper. I think a lot of people need to put some attention on what the Phillies and him are doing. And yeah, he's not overrated. I think the overrated chance need to go because he's definitely living up to the hype this year. Eddie, you can talk about yours.
All right, so I'm going to talk about Jrue Holiday. Chris talked about him last week. He talked about him the week before. But this man is a menace to society when he steps on the basketball court. And not a lot of people are giving him the credit except for Chris. His whole career, besides his rookie year, averaged double figures, been over 40%, and this year he was 15% or 50% from the field. And it's just, I feel secondhand disrespectment from everyone who's not giving this man credit. And yes, he's going to be in the shadow of Giannis and Middleton a little bit going forward. But in the playoffs, in the regular season, he was the piece that helped put everything together and get them to go on that championship run. So I'm excited to see what he has going on for the future. And don't be surprised if this man is an all-star next year or 2 years from now. Even though he's been in the league for a while, he's really brought it together. And I'm happy for him. I just need people to give him a little bit more credit for his talent. Especially his defense, too. We can't let that go.
One of the best defensive players in the world. I think he also proved that in the Olympics. Got the gold medal 2 days ago. Also won the championship. Him and Middleton joined a very exclusive club in doing that. But like you said, for the regular season, we saw how that Bucks team faltered with Eric Bledsoe. All due respect to Eric Bledsoe. But with Eric Bledsoe in the Jrue Holiday role, we saw the Bucks couldn't get to that next level. I doubted the Bucks based off of that this year at some points before I became a believer. But Jrue Holiday was definitely the missing piece, I would agree. He definitely deserves some respect. I dare say he was probably the second most important, even more so over Middleton at times because of Middleton's inconsistencies. Even when Jrue wasn't having a great offensive day, he was having a great defensive day. And that matters because defense wins championships, as they say.
Yes, sir.
So behind Giannis, I think there's a very fair argument that Jrue is the second most important player on that team. And definitely a guy that's underrated and needs more respect.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons he has been flying under the radar is he spent a long time in New Orleans. And they just couldn't get anything going. Despite his production, his field goal percentage, he was doing well, but as a team, they just didn't have that piece like a Giannis or somebody. So that's why he's been flying under the radar. But now that he has this spotlight almost, or this opportunity, the springboard, people are going to really notice what he's been doing.
Some talented pieces around him. I agree. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was Sleepers. Anytime Eddie's on, you can expect it. Even when Eddie's off, if he gives me the permission, I might even drop a couple Sleepers. It won't happen all the time, but special segment when we feel there is a need for somebody that has to get the shine, you know, like a Jrue, like a Bryce, that has been kind of disrespected, gone under the radar. We'll talk about it. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. But that was Sleepers. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that said, we have reached the roundup. We have reached the roundup, which means we're near the end of episode 53. Hope you guys have enjoyed, as always. But this roundup is dedicated to one of the biggest stories in sports. It was trending for the past 3 days, and of course, that's arguably the greatest player of all time when it comes to kicking a soccer ball around the pitch. Lionel Messi is officially leaving Barcelona, which was big, shocking news. And basically, to break it down to you, Eddie, and to you, the audience that may not follow, anybody at home that really wants to know, what's the scenario? Why is Messi, who's been there for pretty much since he was 15, Messi's 34 now, so that's almost 20 years at one club, one of the greatest players of all time, all the goals. He's a household name to even, you know, casual, you know, viewers, people that don't even really know soccer. Why is he leaving Barcelona? Well, it's because Barcelona has been mismanaged to an unbelievable extent. It's honestly insane how you can mess up finances this bad. Eddie, I think if they threw you in as the director of football at Barcelona, you wouldn't have messed it up that bad. And, do you speak Spanish?
Heck no.
See, I don't think Eddie would have messed it up. But somehow, some way, Barcelona, despite all of the income they make, do a series of horrific transfers and just overpaying for players that just did not show up, weren't that good. They completely ruined their finances. They are in debt. Barcelona is in debt. And the Liga also has this rule, salary cap wise, where players' salaries, their wages, can only take up 70% of the income that the team makes. Barcelona's wage take up 115% of their team's income. If Messi played for $0, £0, €0, whatever you want to call it, it would still be 90%, which is 20% over the max. Barcelona is in shambles. It is in shambles. I don't know how Barto is going to be able to walk around the streets of Spain. Somebody needs to put him in witness protection because the Barca fans might try to hurt him. And honestly, they might be justified because it was just terrible business. I don't know how you lose. Literally, some people will call him the GOAT. I'm going to call him one of the greatest for the sake of the argument. But a guy that he's been in Barcelona with Weeknd, he is the face of your franchise. He is the face. He is the face of the club. He is Barcelona for a lot of people. And to lose that, that's huge. Of course, the rumor is he's going to Paris Saint-Germain and joining up with a former Barcelona teammate, one of the greatest players in today's world, and one of the best players in today's game, Neymar, and another one with the guy that's considered the best young player in the world, the future best player in the world, in Kylian Mbappe, which would be an absolutely insane trio. PSG has done amazing business, absolutely amazing business this summer transfer window. So many guys they've gotten for a free. They got Donnarumma on a free after he's proven he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world after winning man of the tournament at the Euros. So just absolutely insane stuff. For PSG, an insane situation with Barca. Messi, sorry for Barcelona fans, we'll pour one out for you. And pay our respects because it's looking like y'all about to be down bad for quite some time. But to transition from that, we have some big news. We have some big news in college basketball recruiting. Amani Bates, you may have heard of him, you may have not. Jalen Duren, you may have heard of him, you may have not. Number 1 and number 2 in the class of 2022 are no longer 1 and 2. They reclassed to 2021. Duren, number 1 player in the 24/7 composite, passing Amani Bates, committed to Memphis. The bagman, the NIL. How do you feel about the NLI? Excuse me. How do you feel about the players getting paid, getting their sponsorship deals, Eddie?
I think it's a great opportunity for them. Mm-hmm. They don't want to go through the whole college process, mess with the NCAA regulations. Mm-hmm. Get that money back to their family because a lot of times that's their goal in the first place. Mm-hmm. So pay a lot of respect to those guys and the creators.
So yeah, Duren goes to Memphis. Penny Hardaway doing business. The bagmen are dropping for Memphis. They get it done. Amani Bates might also follow. He hasn't committed yet. A lot of people talking about Memphis there, or possibly going the G League route. Should be interesting. Amani Bates, once thought of as a generational prospect, not by me, but by the pundits. Still a very, very good prospect. A little bit of a KD light, you could say. But it's going to be interesting. Both of them move up to 2021. I think Duren's at 4 and Amani's at 5. So, again, high-level prospects there. But with that said, that means that Amari Bailey is now the number 1 prospect in the world. I don't know if Drake knew something before us with the Los Angeles Dodgers date with his mother. But, it just kind of all worked out for the boy. But Amari Bailey, number 1 player in the country for now. The number 2 player, however, also committed this week. He was going to Baylor, Keontae George, fantastic shooting guard out of Texas. Should be interesting. He's a great scorer, freak athlete. We've kind of seen this become kind of like the archetype past couple years when it comes to 2 guards. But yeah, Keontae George, great player. We'll see what happens in the class of 2022 and what happens recruiting-wise, but a lot of major moves being made there. Also, another fact about Amani, he has to, wherever he goes, he has to stay for 2 years, because he will not be old enough for the draft next year. So if he does go to Memphis, that could be huge for college basketball. With the G League route popping up, could be a guy that should be a one-and-done, stays for 2 years. Or if he goes the G League route, it would be interesting to see his development in the G League over the course of 2 years and see that compared to other college players that may stay 2 years. So that's something else to look forward to. And of course, to end us off today, we got the NFL Hall of Fame ceremony was this week. Football is back, but we're gonna talk about the NFL. Peyton Manning. Legendary. One of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. I actually am not going to sit here and lie to y'all. I didn't see the Hall of Fame ceremony. I didn't. There was 2 ceremonies. There was one for 2020. There was one for 2021. It felt like there was 4 ceremonies because they kept replaying it. But I heard Peyton. I saw a little bit of his speech. It was good. Charles Woodson also got inducted. Drew Pearson from the Cowboys got inducted. Troy Polamalu, one of the greatest safeties of all time, also got inducted into the Hall of Fame. Next year's class, we got Tony Romo. Also inducted this year, Calvin Johnson, Megatron, which was crazy. It feels like Megatron was just playing.
That's true. Didn't he only play, a few years?
Only played, I think, 9 seasons, yeah. Something which is a recurring thing.
Actually, that's not a few years. NFL stands for not for
honestly,
long, but this man could have gone for longer. This man is
definitely.
Megatron.
It seems like a reoccurring theme with Detroit Lions legends. Sorry, Lions fans. Barry Sanders only played for, 11 years. Megatron makes the Hall of Fame here. Of course, very, very well justified because he's, one of the greatest receivers. At least off of talent. You can argue about numbers, but off of talent and off of seeing him play, obviously one of the greatest receivers of all time. He makes it off, I think, 9 years of production. In the future, like I was saying, we got Romo next year. I don't know if he's making the Hall of Fame. Even as a Cowboys fan, I think he's more of a Hall of Fame good. I think he'll make it as an announcer because he's obviously probably the best announcer we got right now in football. But I don't know if I'd give it to him as a player. He's all very good. Maybe makes the Cowboys Ring of Fame, but I don't know if I can give it to him to the Hall of Fame. DeMarcus Ware, however, probably a Hall of Famer. Reggie Wayne as well. Andre Johnson, as I mentioned, for the Texans. He held it down for a long time. Similar in kind of like a Larry Fitzgerald situation where he had a different quarterback every year because the Texans were absolutely god-awful while Andre Johnson was there. So, interesting scenario there. That was the NFL Hall of Fame. And alright, ladies and gentlemen, with that said, we have covered all of our topics for today. Eddie, thank you for joining me. Where can they follow you?
Definitely. Super happy to be here. Shout out to Chris for taking me on. I reached out to him like, hey man, what you're doing is really cool. It'd be sweet if I could jump on. He was like, yeah, definitely, for sure. So huge shout out, big thank you. And then, if you want to take advice from me, my little word of wisdom while I'm in the limelight on the camera. Stay on your grind. Wherever you are in life, find what you want to work at it. Be persistent, endure, and just watch it fall right in front of you.
You want to know something crazy? I said that earlier in today's episode. I didn't tell him to say that, by the way. I didn't tell him. That was not scripted. That was not in the script. That was not in the notes. He came up with that. But hey, once again, like I said, like he said, you find something you're passionate about. Like, I'm passionate about sports, and I applied it here. Find something you're passionate about. Act on it. A lot of people, as kids, they tell us, like I said earlier, I'll reiterate it here. As kids, they tell us, follow your dreams, find something you're passionate about, and, go chase it. But then as we get older, they kind of shy away from that, and they're like, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to push you into this square. Don't really let them do that. You find something you're passionate about, find where you can apply it, find where you can make a living or a career out of it, and absolutely go chase that. Absolutely go chase that. It's been an absolute pleasure having Eddie, first guest back. You got the honor of first guest back on the 815 Exchange after a nice long hiatus after I had to, work out the things. But it's been an amazing, amazing year. 53 episodes, 53 weeks now straight. I've done this. No plan of stopping in sight, even though I'm going to have some logistics with college coming back in 2 weeks. But don't worry, the 815 Exchange is going nowhere. Like I said, I've got very ambitious goals for content creating and for this. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Eddie will be back, absolutely.
Definitely.
Sleepers, his segment, by the way. So shout out to Eddie for that. We'll be absolutely coming back. Remember to follow him at his social medias. Probably put that in the description for you.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for a year. It was a different type of episode, broken up in a couple parts. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. 53, Ocho, signing off.